when we were moving towards the GFSI audit schemes and how that really helped set us up for FSMA and just having a really set food safety program that had to be maintained regularly, getting everybody to have that buy-in as to why these rules were in place, why were we doing this, because to build that morale for every rule, every regulation that there's a why to it. Something happened along the way to create this new regulation to make sure that things are safe.
You're listening to Food Tech Talk, Supply Chain Insights from Farm to Fork, a podcast discussing the latest trends and technologies in the food and supplements industries, brought to you by Trustwell, featuring conversations with regulatory experts, quality and safety champions, and thought leaders across the industry. I'm your host, Lydia Adams, VP of Marketing at Trustwell. If you're loving the conversation, don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned to the end of the episode where you'll hear our guests tell us their key food industry predictions for 2025. All right, let's jump right in. On today's episode of Food Tech Talk, Supply Chain Insights from Farm to Fork, we're delighted to welcome Lora Stone, a seasoned food safety and quality leader who spent over 15 years driving operational effectiveness, regulatory compliance, and continuous improvement across the food manufacturing industry. Lora combines deep technical expertise with a people-first leadership style, emphasizing mindfulness and clarity in decision-making. Her experience at Dakota MB and Dakota Specialty Enterprises gives her a unique perspective on building strong teams, navigating complex certification landscapes, and leading organizations through regulatory change. Welcome to the show, Lora. Good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Lora, your career really bridges both food safety, leadership, and mindfulness together. And I'd love to hear kind of more about your background and how you've been able to merge these two disciplines together.
I started out my career as a lab tech right out of college. I went to school for food science and food safety and was fortunate to land a quality control technician job right out of the gate and was able to move my way up within the same company. I held multiple roles in quality, in food safety, food technology, regulatory, all the way up to the vice president of food safety and quality as one of my roles. And going through all of that, kind of learning the hard way I had the technical skills for food safety and quality, but needing that, the leadership and the interpersonal skills. It's a very stressful position to be in. Dealing with problems and getting people to buy into food safety. And so I found that yoga, meditation, mindfulness, all of those things really helped with my own mindset. And so I got into the mindfulness, and this has just been within the last few years. And I really think it's helped me springboard my skills a lot more to find those things to help me with my leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. And something we talk a lot about on this show is that, we talk a lot about food safety and the industry, but it's really comes down to the people and the experience and the leadership. So that's awesome that you kind of been able to bring that in and share those techniques with others. Something else about your background that I'd love to kind of get into as well is, you've gone through you've had a lot of experience with regulatory change, and, that alongside, leading a team and kind of dealing with, a lot of change management. So let's start with the regulatory. How have you really approached these, navigating a lot of these frequent changes, and how do you keep operations moving smoothly, with your people when you're dealing with that?
Well, the good thing is that when regulatory changes happen, they give you a little notice. But the thing is to start planning ahead. So you find out that something's going to come down the pipe and you bring the team together. You really need that team approach and to get what's going to work, what's not going to work, and just start making that plan. And what does our timeline look like? And those kind of things, really, really listening to what the input is from other departments, other staff on the team, in order to make it successful for implementation.
Yeah, definitely. alongside that, advice, what systems or routines or trainings, for example, have you really found to be helpful in that sort of change management to keep people really proactive instead of being reactive to something like a regulatory change?
Let's see. Just keeping up on industry knowledge, working with customers and suppliers. A lot of times our customers will demand or request that we make these changes prior to any regulatory dates that are on the docket. So that's always helpful. And I think if we all work together as a team, as an industry, it really helps move these things along.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think another factor with a lot of this, right, is about that balance of moving quickly, but also effectively and maintaining, maintaining your typical production and balancing that morale. So, if you think back to your history and your career, can you ever think of a time where like maybe one of these changes, whether it was regulatory or something else that you had to manage, was actually going to help bring the team together, or when that approach of, leadership and morale and change management really went really well?
So the thing that pops in my mind right away is when we were moving towards the GFSI audit schemes and how that really helped set us up for FSMA and just having a really set food safety program that had to be maintained regularly. All of the programs in place, do what you say what you do, that really help solidify everything. And then getting everybody to have that buy-in as to why these rules were in place, why were we doing this? Because to build that morale, for every rule, every regulation that there's a why to it. Something happened along the way to create this new regulation to make sure that things are safe.
If you're enjoying this episode, be sure to check out the Reconnect On-Demand Library. Every October, Trustwell brings together food industry professionals, partners, and customers for Reconnect, our annual event focused on sharing best practices, exploring emerging technology, and building stronger supply chains. Now, the full library of sessions is available on demand. From expert panels to product deep dives and industry success stories, there's something for everyone working to improve food safety, transparency, and efficiency. Head to trustwell.com/reconnect to gain access to all of this year's sessions. Now, back to the show. Yeah, absolutely. And, another topic that comes up a lot, in this is really about kind of the culture. You just talked about morale. How have you really approached like a food safety culture where, people are really actively adopting a lot of these changes for good? And like, how do you build that and how do you maintain that in your organization?
It's really talking to the people, really good communication, explaining the whys, finding out what's going to work and what's not going to work, being able to pivot too. So you put in a program, you find out that it's not working as you thought it was going to, and being able to make minor adjustments in order to move it forward and get it to move a little bit more smoothly.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of funny because the next thing we are going to discuss is really kind of about accountability. And so it's funny because I think some people are, they see accountability on one side and morale on the other. But, how have you been able to really maintain that where you've created this culture and high morale amongst the team, but you also are, managing accountability for maybe those that are not, doing what needs to be done. And how do you kind of balance that?
Listening to people, again, having those conversations, that open communication, and working alongside people, jumping in, where can I help? I've always been that hands-on leader that will jump in and help with tasks and try them myself if it's to see what's not working alongside everybody that's out in the plant that's working with the issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly that that hands-on approach. I think it always comes up as a key to really keep people engaged. So so that makes a lot of sense. That's awesome. So another example, kind of like how this all comes into play, I know you've managed a lot of different certifications like kosher, organic, halal, and that requires a lot of precision as well. So how are you really maintaining consistency across so many different requirements and so many different programs?
Really, the baseline for a lot of those programs is very similar. And a lot of them you can slide right into some of your existing food safety programs with just the additional details. And that's how I've done it in the past, that my team has done it in the past, is how can we add a line into a form, or how can we add an extra piece into an existing program so that we're not reinventing things? Where would this make the most sense to keep this information and to hit all of the boxes, the check boxes for compliance across all of the certifications, because there's a lot of them out there for sure.
Yeah. And do you find, that there's a certain type of, way that you approach the technology or the tools to kind of keep everything in the same place? Like, how do you guys really approach like your data?
Data, there's been so many changes over the years with technology. So that's always a moving target. But just having organized files, having everybody know where they're at, having a one source of truth, especially for any documentation that's on the floor, any trainings, any programs that people need to access, making sure that they have the most recent versions of all of these documents. And whatever software programs, used quite a few of them over the years, different ERP systems and data systems, and just making sure that everybody knows where to go and where to access that, and that they're using those current versions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. And in your history as well, I think you've probably seen changes in regards to consumer expectations, especially for things like transparency and traceability and sustainability. What are you seeing today, and how is that different than the past? What's your approach to kind of keeping up with those consumer demands?
Again, I think it's trying to roll them into existing programs. How can we not have to reinvent the wheel? How can we work with our customers? I also think it's industry wide. A lot of companies really have been working together, suppliers, customers, ingredient suppliers, working together to help each other out with these things, giving ideas, networking, in order to figure out the best way to do things. Because I don't think any one company can manage all of this or figure out the best way to do things on their own.
Yeah, I think that that interaction is key, certainly to the industry. So I'd like to kind of go back to something that we started off with. So I think it's interesting how you brought up the demands of leadership and how you've kind of turned to mindfulness. So I'd love to dig in a little bit more about your journey and how has that approach with mindfulness, yoga, and taking time for yourself. How has that helped you be a better leader?
It's easy to get overwhelmed in our world just as it is, with all of the constant feedback, technology, all of those things. And sometimes in order to speed up, you have to slow down. And when you're in a current situation that could be stressful, you can't necessarily see the whole picture. So by stepping back, finding those quiet moments, really feeling into the moment, taking a breath, and a pause, it really helps to reset yourself, and it brings clarity to the moment and what you're going to look at going forward. The past is very important, the future is very important, but really the only thing you can control is the present moment and how you react to it. And how you react to it is really going to set the tone for moving forward. I did my yoga teacher training a little over a year ago, and was not planning on becoming a yoga teacher, and decided that I did want to try it, just to step outside of my comfort zone, to, try something new, growth mindset. And I find that doing that little bit of training makes me want to do a lot more training, and that, doing these practices actually have probably helped me more in my leadership development than a lot of leadership development courses have, just because you get to lean more into yourself and understand yourself a little bit better. And I think that's really important in order to help other people understand their day-to-days.
Yeah. I mean, so as you were going through that journey, I mean, did you see a positive effect on your team or your organization just based on like what you were doing for yourself?
Yes. I think I was able to manage. I haven't always been very good at managing my own stress. And I think I was able to step back and really notice things within myself and not get to be able to deal with the stress a little bit differently and find a little bit more ease in the day to day, even when things got tough, so that I could be that more even mindset for the rest of the team. Because it's not good when the leader is not settled. You gotta have that front that everything is going to be okay.
Yeah, I certainly think, with leadership in general, it's like you're setting the tone, for the entire team and for the culture that you're building in your team, and having a very, kind of stressed out feeling, it definitely, it trickles down to everybody within the org. And so, no, that's really cool that you've been able to accomplish that. Another thing that I know you've spoken about a lot is really leading with empathy and clarity. And so really love to hear more about that and kind of how that has helped you through, times of maybe high pressure or, difficulties.
It's establishing those relationships with your coworkers, with your staff, with leadership, to understand what they're going through, because not everybody sees the same views. They don't see the same picture as you do. And so having that, if they're having something else that they're dealing with, to have that empathy and to understand where they're coming from, it does help make things a lot more clear on how to move forward or why they're seeing what they're seeing. And so it helps with the teamwork. It helps move things forward. It helps build those relationships are just really so important to the health of a company, and also, getting that culture built around, the whys and the food safety and the quality and really all of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you're obviously a pioneer in a lot of things, but, have you seen this as a trend in other leaders or, other folks that you've spoken to, or do you feel like it's kind of something that still needs to take off?
I really think it's something that still needs to take off. I see a lot of stressed out, especially I'm in between things right now, and being able to take a little step back right now, it really has made me notice the bigger picture and how important it is to incorporate some of these things. And so I'm really excited to take what I've learned, especially during this a little bit quieter time for me, and use that moving forward in my next role.
Yeah, I feel like, certainly food industry, but really just across the board, I think leadership, leading with empathy is so important. It also gets great results in the sense of that your team knows that you care, right? And that you're, looking out for them. So completely agree. So that was great to talk about. I'm so excited that you shared that. I think just like closing us out and thinking towards the future, right? Obviously you've done a lot of things and you've been around. And when you think about the food industry and whether it's, food safety culture, growth, like what do you see as really the future of food safety? And I'm going to say this one more time, sorry. As you think about the future, Lora, what would you say is your predictions, whether it's, having to do with food safety or culture or the growth of the industry?
I think it's just food safety culture is going to continue to grow. They have, as far as the GFSI audit schemes, the food safety schemes, they're all adding more and more things related to culture in there because they know establishing that culture works. So I think that is definitely a trend that's going to continue. It's an interesting thing to measure. I know that, that's been a difficult thing, to prove in audits and that, but really if you see that people are doing the right thing and you can tell by the plant and the people, but I'm very happy that we're getting all of that, really a focus and management commitment, getting from the top down, everybody involved in food safety. And I also think that's going to be a trend going forward as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, when you think ahead, what really excites you, or what makes you feel, a lot of passion about, what you want to do next and where you're headed in the future?
There are so many passionate, intelligent people that really want to do the right thing out in the food industry. And I am excited for my next role, which is going to be in regulatory and compliance again. It's a little bit of a different direction this time. I'm going to be working in a nonprofit organization in the area. But just seeing that growth, all of the people that have such a passion for it, that just makes me really excited about the future of food safety.
Yeah, absolutely. And since you are continuing that regulatory space, any advice or thoughts for the audience of, like how to be prepared for regulatory change, or how to ensure that you're ready to be compliant in the future?
Start early, make plans with your teams, put a schedule together, meet often, communicate and listen to everybody's point of view. It's really important to get all sides of things in order to get things to successfully move forward.
Any other advice or thoughts that you want to share that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
Reminding people to take a breath, take a pause, even though you don't think you have time for a break. There's a lot of research that says you should take time for a break to reset, and things might not look quite as bad as they did when you're in the moment.
All right. Well, Lora, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a great conversation and about leadership and mindfulness and regulatory kind of across the board. So really appreciate your insights. Yeah, absolutely. And for our audience, we'll see you at the next episode of Food Tech Talk, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Thanks so much. Thank you for joining us for another bite-sized nugget of Food Tech Talk, supply chain insights from farm to fork. Make sure to subscribe. And if you love the podcast, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. To learn more about Trustwell and request your free demo of our technology platform that connects food formulation, products, nutrition analysis, and compliant labeling with traceability, recall readiness, and supply chain transparency, please visit us at www.trustwell.com and click Get Started, or click the link in the show notes to learn more. Thanks for listening.